It's me. I'm a tech idiot. I had my forge document place, and forgive me. I don't know who else agreed to join in today, aside from us. That would mean that we don't have quorum, but we're going to meet anyway. So we have September. Just going to give it another 2 minutes if you guys don't mind. And I'm sorry to delay you.
No problem.
Just to see if anyone else is joining. So we said that we were going to meet quarterly, and so we're meeting quarterly, even though we don't really have much to discuss because there haven't been any new funding. There hasn't been any new funding allocated to the community board. It's, what we had already discussed. So we're actually meeting to just go over the reconciliations thus far. That's it. There's not much we can say. Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Is it evening?
Hi, how's everybody? I didn't want to interrupt you. You were speaking.
There's not much going on. It's 3. How many of us are there?
I think it's 5 or 6, ain't it? I'm not sure. I don't have the
It's Dell, it's Phil, it's Tommy, it's probably 6. Maybe missing one person.
You have 8.
8.
8. Thank you, Jerry. Is Steve part of this? I can't remember. I remember seeing
No.
Steve a lot.
No,
Steve who?
Chesler,
Nope.
no.
but he's not in the
You got
community.
you got yourself, you got Tion, you got Capernago, you got Amante, you got Julie, you got Janice, you got Dell, and you got Tommy Torres.
Yeah, so we don't have quorum yet. Give it another minute. I think folks are accustomed to meeting at 6:30, and I've made this meeting at 6, which people have to tell me if this doesn't work for them. The reason I made it at 6 is because it shouldn't be a lengthy meeting. It should be very quick. And at 6 o'clock, people can then finish and go on and take care of their business.
What size are those scissors, Giovanni?
I'm still at the office, so
I know. I just done you doing like this and looked like the scissors were awfully big.
it's right here.
Okay.
We got a very big delivery of snacks for after school. So that's what I've
Oh,
been doing all afternoon, getting the packets ready for the different classrooms.
opening packets, huh?
Yeah.
Maria, in the
Yes, ma'am.
committee, I think we need to think about setting some kind of limit that the office can buy stuff without running around getting approval. I think we need a budget with a certain amount of money where you can buy stuff because it takes too long to try to get approval.
May I say something
Sure.
about that? I don't think that, my perspective, I don't think it was ever the case that we had to have a conversation about approving stuff that was, of a certain, we never had that conversation. Of course, it would make sense. If we're talking about spending $40,000, yes, it's going to warrant that the whole board sits together and decide on how it's spent and whatever. But if we're talking about an item that's under $100, I really don't think that we need a committee to approve the purchase. I
Well,
mean, this set the
I
limit.
think we need to set an amount that the board can use. And if they keep purchasing something over that amount, then go to committee for approval.
So
So
we
we know
already
what
approved.
range.
I'm here, Madam Chair.
Hi, Tommy, how are
Tommy,
you?
thank you for coming.
Very great. I agree with Maria. 250 limit.
I'm
What?
just saying, we already approved the budget. We approved it. So, I mean, if you're spending within the budget lines, why do you need approval? Unless, of course, it's something that, I mean, I would say if it's like over, honestly, I would say if it's an item that's like over $500, I would say, okay, let's have the budget, but something under 500, but that's my feeling. Of course, you all,
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think we need a price range that we can spend within that price range. And if you go over that price range, then you get approval. I think it need to be put out. I think we need it in writing.
yes,
So we don't have to waste a lot of time trying to run around and get stuff approved.
okay. There are 4 of us, so does that, we don't have quorum. We need 5. I'm writing my stuff down while we wait. Well, so what do we think is the threshold that I said 500, but you know, if you guys disagree, please. That's just me. It may get, you know, there may be an uproar. So Tommy says 250. Gio,
Yeah, I was gonna say I agree with Tommy about the 250. That's just like the standard of practice we use, where if it's over $250, then we have to go through a process.
Well, since I think it should be 500. 250, I mean, stuff in the office like the air filter machine, stuff like that, Whatever the committee wants to do, but we need some guidelines on that.
so there are 2 for the 250. With me, it could go, I really, you know, whatever the committee decides. Yeah, Julia. Julie, I see your forehead and a nice yellow ribbon that's not tied around the old oak tree.
Headband.
So Maria, how do you categorize that? So if you wanted to buy, if I wanted to stock up on supplies and spend $250 worth of paper and spend another $250 worth of cleaning supplies and another $250 worth of another commodity, so then it's the totality of the order, or it's based on the commodity? How
Your
would that
cleaning
work?
supplies total 316. You're budgeted for 316. You can't go over that. So I mean, I think that there should be a discretion based on what the item is. Again, supplies and materials, you already have a budgeted, an approved budgeted amount. If you're buying bulk supplies in bulk, and you're talking about you're placing an order of, I'm going to say paper, even though, you know, $500. Is that then something that you don't really want to necessarily run by the board, because by the committee, because it's like, hey, it's $500 worth of paper. Do I need to run that by you? So this is why we have to make that decision now. And I get it, Jerry. So, you know, like, what are the standards? We have
And
to
it's
decide that.
and the problem is that sometimes there's offerings from different companies with time limits that you have to respond within a certain period of time. For example, the pocket planners, in order to get them for, what was it, 39 cents, we had to respond, and we wound up really chasing people to try to get an answer on that. Sometimes there's deals on paper, sometimes there's coupon codes that we take advantage of all the time, and there's different offerings that are timely. You know, I mean, everything is transparent. It's certainly no problem. We really haven't made any purchases since pre-pandemic. So we've been working off a surplus of supplies, that we're probably, it's probably the surplus is skeletal now.
And supplies are gonna
You
get
need to
hard to get
replenish.
after a while.
Yeah, that's another thing, is that sometimes we try to get something and they just don't have it. Or we'll put it in, if we go to put it in order, a lot of the vendors are telling us, order this now because we may not have this a week from now. And, I understand all the ships are backed up in the harbor and all over the place and stuff like that. So anything we could do to streamline the process, I mean, certainly we could still report back to the committee saying we're making a purchase of such and such item, and then that's no problem at all, And I
So,
mean, there is a drop down of funds that, we did get fully budgeted. They did not do that second and third cut that they said they were going to do. So you could see from the reconciliation that there's currently $5,000 in supplies and materials, which lucky we had $500 pre-pandemic and pandemic-wise.
so Jerry, this is only a suggestion. I'm one voice and everyone else is welcome to speak up. My suggestion would be and I'm sure that this is what you do already. I'm not trying to change the operation, how you run your office. But to do inventory of what is needed, make a list, because I'm sure that that's gonna be like
We do that. It's
expense that
mandated.
runs over the thousands.
It's
And
mandated, Maria. I don't mean to interrupt.
Sorry?
It's mandated. We do that every year. We have to turn it into the city.
I'm
The
sorry?
inventory controls are mandated by the city. We have to turn in our inventory control documents to the city every year.
And when you place orders to replenish, how does that go about? What is the process?
If we, there's two ways. Number one, if we start to run out of an item, we'll know that and we'll look to replenish. The second thing is, for the years that I've been here, it's always been our policy to not give money back. So
Oh, we're not trying to give anything back.
right. So
We're
stock
trying to
up, and
spend
I'm
it.
sure the schools do the same thing, to stock up on anything that's non-perishable, so that we'll have it for rainy day. And unfortunately, 2020 was more than a rainy day. It was a rainy year and a half for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And we do our own clean. We don't have a cleaning person in the office. So the least I could do is provide myself and the staff with cleaning supplies to keep the place disinfected and clean. And I think we're down to next to nothing. I know more information maybe than anybody needs to know, but toilet paper are probably down to 20 rolls. But that we get from City Storehouse. For some strange reason, City Storehouse has no paper this year.
Wow.
Everybody bought it during the pandemic. Hang on. I'm sorry, let me close the window because I hear all the noise on Bushwick Avenue, so I can't.
The stock is getting very low out there.
But
I'm sorry?
Stock is getting very low. You got shelves are empty and it's gonna be hard to get stuff after a while, the way it seems.
So the bottom line is, what do we want to do? Do we want to go higher than the 250? Do we want to go to 300? Do we want, I mean, what do we want to do here?
Just a recommendation. What if the office could spend based on the limit that's in that proposal you guys put together, and then after that point, maybe then is when they have to come to the committee.
Well, that's why I said that we already have an approved budget with allocations on each line, supplies and materials. You have $5,200 to spend. You can't go
Yeah,
over
so
that.
let's say once you go over the 5,000, then you have to come back to the committee to make that adjustment. Because
If you need modifications, you
yeah,
mean, if there are modifications that
yeah. I don't, I don't like,
Gi-
look, they're not going on and buying vacations,
Giovanni, what we typically done in past years
Mhm.
is, like you said, the money's allocated in the codes. We'll spend within the codes, and then maybe 2.5 months to to 2 months before the end of the fiscal year, we'll say, hey, we have X number of dollars in cleaning supplies. I don't think we're going to spend that. So then we'll mod that money into a code that we could kind of, and I hate to use the word blow out, but blow out and spend so that we're not giving any money back, because it's always been the understanding amongst not only myself, but the other community boards, that if you don't spend to the fullest, next year, your allocation may not be increased or could possibly even be decreased. There were several boards. I can't speak for the other boroughs, but it's always been an issue with some of the boards in Brooklyn that were constantly giving money back. And again, it gives the false presence that we have enough money and we could always use more. I could always use another person if we had really a lot of extra money.
Giving money back from an already bare-boned budget. That's, can't speak for others' money management or budget management. That would seem.
I mean, we carved
unrealistic.
everything to the skeletal to meet those cuts, and then they turned around and said, oh, and we were spreading it out over 3 fiscal years. And then they turned around and all of a sudden said, okay, we're not going to cut you. But meanwhile, they took the money from that first cut.
Yep. So what are we deciding?
Again, whatever the money's used for, the committee will always be kept in the loop to say we're purchasing this or we've bought that or whatever.
I go back to my original thought, which was that if you're spending on one item, if you're going to spend on over $500 on one item, it should be released to the committee, because all you need is for someone to come back and say, oh, so you bought this for $500. You could have used that money for oh, that was not well spent, or you guys weren't thinking, conscientiously. How could you spend $500 on that when you need it? So this is where we do need to set some sort of limits, Jerry, just to be accountable.
Understood. The only piece of equipment that is kind of at death's door, but we're getting away with using it. It's with literally Scotch tape. I've been able to repair it myself. Is the fax machine, but we don't use it that often. That I don't know if it pays to even replace it. We try to scan everything and use the email system. There are occasions when an agency wants something faxed, but again, it's still working. It hasn't died yet. Other than that, I don't foresee any equipment purchased. The computers are fairly new.
So do we agree that if the board is going to spend $500 or more on one item, that it should come to the committee? Otherwise, if you're spending $500 on pens, papers, whatever, bulk, we don't need to know that. We don't need to know that. We need to know that it's within the budgeted line or code, as you guys call it, code, That's what we need to know. But if you're spending $500 on one item, then I think that it warrants, just vetting by the committee. Do you guys agree? We're going to spend $500 on this, and there's a justification. This is the justification. It's because blah, 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 and we vetted the price. I mean, whatever. We looked around, what's the normal thing? 3 bids? And this is the lowest or the better. It's not always the lowest price, but the bigger bang for the buck. In terms of quality, sometimes we think, oh, this is the cheapest, but it's not. It's cheap in value and in expense.
I mean, just to recap the last purchases, so the 3 air purifiers for the office was a total of $468.94. We use a $50 off coupon code from the vendor. The last bill supplies was $268.08. So we're below the cap. Like I said, the only piece of equipment that is in the foreseeable future is a new fax machine if we think it's necessary.
So do we agree on the 500 for one item or 250 for one item?
I agree with the 500.
I'm putting you.
500.
500
Yeah, 500. Mm-hmm.
for one item.
For one item.
Okay. Approval from the committee. Of the committee. So now here's another question. Does the committee then have to bring this to the larger body to be accountable? Do we have to do that? Do we have to wait to have a full meeting to bring it to the larger body? Hey, this is what's being spent, $500 on, I'm not gonna say fax machine, but what? What do we think, $500 a laptop? Do we have to bring that to the full board?
I don't think we should because the budget lines are already approved, right? Didn't the full board approve those? It was so long ago, I don't remember. Didn't the full board
In June,
approve? Yeah, in June,
in
right?
June,
They were
yes,
we gave them the mods. So I
yes.
think, as long as we're spending within those lines, I don't think, we should tell them what the plan is, but like I don't think for each individual thing have one of those crazy roll call votes. So I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Starting February, we shouldn't have any more of those. Please, God. Um, okay, so we're not gonna vet it by, okay. It's gonna be at the committee's discretion, and then we'll bring it to the full board when I submit my report, quarterly report, which is a reconciliation. How much has been spent thus far, and this is the balance, and as long as we're not going over the limits, imposed by the budgeted lines, I don't think it should be a problem. Okay, that's one item. That was one thing. The next thing, thank you so much. The next thing was actually looking at the reconciliation that has been sent to and I want to believe that the committee has been receiving them, and it's not just me. Somebody please say that yes, because then if it's me, then I've been remiss. Have you guys been receiving the reconciliations that are sent monthly?
I've
Okay.
been getting them, yeah. Mm-hmm. In
Okay,
the email.
so I'm looking right now at July. It's the current budget. One line is the current budget, the budgeted amount, what's been spent, what's been the encumbrance and the balance. That hasn't changed. Do we need to go through these numbers one at a time?
Maria, Mr. Caponegro just texted me. He's coming on the call now.
Wonderful. I don't think I'm not gonna look at the month by month. I'm gonna look at September, which is the latest one. And if I can share my screen, we'll just agree that this is what's been spent thus far. Am I sharing?
Yes,
Wonderful. So do I need to zoom it?
yes.
I do, because I can see it perfectly, but I don't know what you guys are seeing. Is that large enough?
Yeah.
Beautiful. So did Bill join us? Is Phil here? No?
I don't know. I haven't seen it.
Okay, I'm gonna keep going, and when he joins us, he can catch up, or we can catch him up. So I'm sharing the September recon, the month ending September, which should encompass everything that has been spent thus far within this fiscal year. And I'm not gonna go down every single line. I'm just gonna look at the areas where there has been money drawn down. That's number one, supplies and materials. If you can see that, we know what the budgeted amount is, 5264. We've spent 179.72. Jerry, and I think that goes back to the supplies and materials that you were talking about just a few minutes ago. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And everything else, let's see, the next thing we spent out of the 300 in intercity storehouse, we spent 22 cents, a balance of $299.78. In data processing supplies, and what is that, Jerry, particularly? Can you remind us? $259 of data processing supplies? Is that
That's the internet. That's the high-speed internet that goes through DCAS.
why can't we just call it internet? Because if I see supplies, I think that it's
No, I
like,
know. This is the way the city, these codes are set up by the city. I'm working within their system.
okay, so that's 259. We've spent 88.36 on internet. Office equipment, let's go back now. Office furniture.
Wait a minute,
nothing
I'm
spent.
sorry. That 8836, that was for those thumb drives.
For the thumb, so that's not internet.
Right, that's the thumb drives.
Okay. Okay.
We use the thumb drives to
Yes,
send,
to store data.
to store the minutes, and we have to provide the mayor, comptroller, and the borough president with a copy of our minutes at the end of each year. So we do that through we transcribe them onto those thumb drives.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Just thinking, why can't they just get a copy of the report digitally? Just call it a wrap. But I guess you have to have some way to save information because you just never know. Office equipment allocation is 1980, spent $468.93 thus far on office equipment,
That was the air purifiers.
right? Security equipment, $66 so far out of 264. Books and subscription, $38 out of 540. Was that the calendars?
I
Were those
think
the calendars?
that's the subscription to the chief.
Okay. Okay. Do we use that subscription much? Is it disseminated? I mean, does it get
Well,
distributed?
sometimes, well, it's not a digital copy, it's a printed copy. Sometimes people will come into the office to ask for it to read it. They're looking for job information and stuff from the New York City Department of Personnel.
Yeah. And rental of miscellaneous equipment, there's an encumbrance of 1672 from the 1472, leaving us a balance of 28 cents. And the last is the leasing of miscellaneous equipment, which we've spent 89.85, encumbrance of 269.55, leaving us with a balance of 60 cents, which means we've got nothing left there. And basically we've spent $931 in the last quarter. And I say quarter because I'm counting July, August, and September, right? Which is the beginning of the fiscal year, the first quarter of this fiscal year. So we've spent $931.08. And we have an encumbrance, there is an encumbrance of 1,960 and 21 cents. And we still have a balance of $12,576.71. Are we good with that? I think that's what we had to meet about. Can we agree? I stopped sharing. Are we
Phil's
good with
on.
that?
Phil's on now. Phil?
I'm here, Jeff.
Hey, Phil, how's it going?
Good, 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 good.
So, Phil, we're about to wrap up. So very quickly, we just went over the last quarter's recon. And we realized that our expenses to date have totaled $931.08. Their encumbrance is $1,960.21. And we still have a grand total of $12,576.71 to spend. So basically, that is what this meeting was about, to go over this fiscal year's expense
When is the
report.
end of the physical year? When does it end?
It ended. We went through that already. We did that back when we met in June.
No, when do we have to spend the money? When do we have to?
We have till June 30th
All right,
of 2022.
okay, all right. Okay,
So I guess we have to have these quarterly meetings just to
That's-
keep ourselves, held accountable to what
that's okay.
budget
That's fine.
is. And I think that we have to make a decision here and now, and that is, do we need to continue having quarterly meetings just to go through an already approved budget? Or should these meetings, because the bylaws say that committees have to have at least 4 meetings per year. And what that means is that we have to meet every 3 months to look at what's spent down out of the $17,000 budget that we've already approved. So we, Madam Chair, are actually, committed to following the rules that the bylaws impose upon us, even though it's like, we're going to discuss every 3 months. Okay, so how much did you spend this last 3 months? We already agreed that, we're going to spend, that if it's a $500 item, it goes to a committee approves, say yay, nay, whatever. We agreed that this is the budget for the entire year. It's not like the board can actually go over this budget because the money does not exist. We may have to meet if there's a need for a budget modification because you have to move money from one code to the next. And then, that actually speaks against an already approved budget. So that does warrant a meeting. But are we then going to be held accountable if we don't meet every quarter? Because I think that we don't need to meet every quarter to see this. And if you guys disagree with me, please speak up.
Well, this is Phil, but yeah, I don't like to go against what our bylaws state because people could always throw that back in our face, Marie, that we're not meeting and stuff. So I say we meet, we schedule meetings quarterly, we do 4 meetings a year. If we're on here for 5 minutes, at least we're doing our due diligence. We're meeting what the bylaws state, and it can never be held against us. And that's my thought on the matter.
Very good. Anyone else?
No, I agree with that.
That's it. That's all you have
Julia,
to
you're
check.
throwing me off. Thanks, Phil. You're throwing me off because I'm counting 2 people and it's 1. It's 2 and 1.
If it's virtual, we'll have it up at all the meetings we want.
Well, soon it's going to be in person, but that's okay. That's another conversation. Can we continue to have virtual meetings of the committees? But I guess that speaks against, that's a larger conversation. I don't want to open that can of worms. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So then we have quorum. So motion to accept the current reconciliation that speaks back to the expense.
Yeah, I was trying to get in to say something.
I'm
as
sorry.
far as- yes, Julia. I'm sorry I'm on here twice. My mic doesn't work on the computer, so I'm on my phone.
It's okay. It's okay.
As far as the bylaws is concerned about the meetings, I was going to state the same thing when it comes to the bylaws committees, because if no one wants to change anything and doesn't send any notices, we have to meet also. So maybe that might be something someone might write on to say, can we change the bylaws to state that certain groups that don't have to meet every month or every at least 4 times a year, is something you might want to consider changing. So because I personally, with the bylaws committee, we only really have to meet unless something wants to be changed. And if nobody wants to change anything, then I got to schedule a meeting, then nobody comes into the meeting. So I'm just throwing that out there. Now I'm going to go.
Don't go yet. So you make a big statement and then you want to jet? What's up with that?
No, I was going to turn my mic off. So I'm
So
just
you want
stating if
to-
somebody might want to
So
put
your
that in
suggestion
writing.
is to bring to bylaws that there are committees that don't warrant quarterly meetings or 4 times, that don't warrant having to meet 4 times a year. And would there be consideration to allow for those committees to meet less often?
Yes.
I'm going to tell you the reason why I brought it up. It's because I was reading up on the function of a budget committee. I wanted to make sure that I'm doing the right thing. I wanted to make sure that I am, executing the way that I should be executing as the chair of a budget committee. I don't want to do something that's wrong. I want to be successful. I want us all to be successful in this. And I've read that once a budget is approved, it's approved. There's really not much that you need to meet on, except in the case where there is a budget modification, or if there is an item that is an expense that really warrants a discussion because it's like a really high expense and it has to be brought to the full committee. And we started this meeting talking about what is that threshold that we want to set. And we did, right? But if majority agrees that we should not bring it to bylaws, that we should continue following the mandate of meeting every quarter, because that's what our bylaws say, so be it. We don't want to be the ones to say, oh, no, we don't want to meet. Oh, shame on you. No, Phil, or anyone else. It was just because that's what I had read, that once you approve a budget, there's not really much that you can do as a committee unless there is an expense that's really exorbitant, or if there's a budget modification. But I won't rock the boat. If I have to meet quarterly, we'll meet quarterly. If it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, it's okay with me. You know?
Okay.
So Tommy agrees with the quarterly. All right, there's a motion. There was a motion that I was gonna motion to accept the the September reconciliation as a document of expenses and of expenditures on the against the approved budget. Accept it. Motion to accept it.
Yep.
Yes. Yep.
I don't hear Tommy. There's only 5 of us here. I mean, geez Louise. Okay, accept it. So we accept that. And we will continue then to have quarterly, we will continue to have quarterly meetings to review the reconciliation and approve the expenditures to date. Okay. That is
Okay.
all. Does anyone have anything else that they want to add? No? Okay, so thank you all for coming. It's a pleasure always chatting with you and talking about this subject of how to spend other people's money, not mine. responsibly.
Thank you, everybody.
Because I don't
Thank you.
spend mine
All
responsibly.
right, stay safe, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Have a good
Good night.
week.
Thank you.
Good
Night,
night.
everyone.
Jerry, thank you.
Anytime. Have a good night. Be safe.
Bye-bye.